The incense is so thick you can barely breathe. Your wedding dress, the one your mother embroidered for 6 months, drags across mosaic tiles that feel like ice beneath your feet. Behind you, the bronze door slams shut with a sound that makes your bones vibrate. You're 19 years old, your name is Claudia, and everything you thought you knew about becoming a wife is about to shatter. Before I tell you what happened in that room, I need you to understand something. This isn't folklore, this isn't exaggeration. What I'm about to describe was Roman law, witnessed by thousands, documented in legal texts, and then systematically erased from history because it became too shameful to remember. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop a comment, because by the end you'll understand why your history teachers never mentioned this. The year is 86 AD, during the reign of Emperor Domitian. Rome controls the known world. Its legions are unstoppable. Its architecture defies imagination. Its legal code will influence Western law for 2,000 years. But inside the villa of Senator Lucius Valerius Rufus, in a private chamber hidden from the streets, something is about to happen to Claudia that contradicts every noble principle Rome claims to represent. The wedding ceremony this afternoon was magnificent. 300 guests, a white bull sacrificed to Jupiter. Claudia's saffron veil cost more than most families earn in a year when she and her new husband, Marcus Valerius, clasped hands before the altar. Even the priest seemed moved. That was the public performance. The theater of legitimacy. What's happening now in this torch-lit chamber, this is the machinery behind the curtain. Claudia counts 9 people in the room, 9 witnesses to something she doesn't yet understand. An older woman stands directly before her, so close, Claudia can smell the wine on her breath. This is Postuma, a professional pronuba, a matron whose entire livelihood depends on guiding young brides through the preparatory rites. Her eyes are kind, but her voice is iron. "You understand why you're here?" Postuma asks. Claudia doesn't, but she nods anyway. Admitting ignorance feels dangerous. Good. Then we proceed, according to custom, to Claudia's left, a priest she's never seen before, not the one from the ceremony, chants in a dialect of Latin so ancient even he probably doesn't know what the words mean. He's reading from a scroll that looks older than the Republic itself. Behind him, 2 female attendants stand ready with copper basins filled with heated water. Their faces are carefully blank, the expression of people who've learned not to remember what they witness. And there, in the shadows near the far wall, sits a man Claudia recognizes with a jolt of horror. Physician Quintus, the same man who examined her last week. That examination, in her father's study with her father present, had been the most humiliating experience of her life, or so she thought. She hadn't understood why it was necessary. Documentation, her father had said. The marriage contract requires medical certification of your condition. It's standard procedure. Now physician Quintus is here again on her wedding night, and suddenly that earlier examination makes terrible sense. It was the before documentation, which means Claudia's thoughts fracture as she notices what dominates the center of the chamber, a wooden sculpture, roughly the height of her waist, covered with a cloth of deep crimson. Every person in the room is positioned around it. Every torch is angled to illuminate it. The entire space has been arranged as if this object is the altar and Claudia is the sacrifice. Postuma follows Claudia's gaze and nods slightly. Yes, we begin with him, with the God who must bless all unions before they can be fruitful. I don't understand, Claudia whispers. You will. Postuma walks to the covered sculpture. She doesn't hesitate, doesn't build suspense. She simply pulls the crimson cloth away and lets it fall. The carved wood beneath is polished to a mirror shine. Its shape is unmistakable. A phallus, massive in scale, rendered with such anatomical accuracy that Claudia's face burns, with shame just looking at it. Fascinus, Postuma says. protector of brides, opener of wombs, the sacred symbol without which no Roman marriage can be consummated. This isn't the name, Claudia heard whispered. She remembers the older women at the market using a different name, Mutinus Tutunus, Priapus, Liber, but perhaps they're all the same god, or perhaps Rome has so many phallic deities that the names blur together. What doesn't blur is the wooden god's purpose. Postuma gestures to it with the casual efficiency of someone demonstrating a household tool. You must sit upon Fascinus. You must accept his blessing into your body. This prepares you for your husband. This is how girls become wives. This is how women become mothers. There is no marriage without this. The room tilts. Claudia's vision narrows to a tunnel. No, she hears herself say. No, that's not. My father never said. Your father doesn't speak of it because men don't need to, Postuma interrupts, not unkindly. But every woman in your family has done this. Your mother, your grandmother, your husband's mother. Every respectable matron in Rome sat where you're about to sit. Would you be the first to refuse? Would you shame your family? Would you make your marriage invalid? Claudia looks desperately toward Marcus, her husband, still standing near the doorway. He won't meet her eyes. His jaw is clenched so tight she can see the muscle jumping. He knows. He's always known. And he said nothing. What happens next occurs with the terrible efficiency of ritual perfected over centuries. Postuma takes Claudia's arm, firmly but without violence, and guides her toward the wooden god. The attendants move forward simultaneously, adjusting Claudia's dress, positioning her body. The god must enter you fully, Postuma explains in the same tone a cook might use to describe preparing meat. There must be clear penetration. The physician will verify. Only then can your husband complete the union. Claudia tries to pull away, but Postuma's grip tightens. Child, this is not cruelty. This is law. This is religion. This is the foundation of Roman society. Every bride resists at first. Every bride submits eventually. You're not special. You're not being singled out. You're simply experiencing what marriage actually means. The wooden surface is smooth, worn by the bodies of countless women before her. As Postuma and the attendants position Claudia, adjusting her stance with practiced hands, Claudia's mind fractures into pieces. Part of her remains present, feeling everything. Another part floats upward, trying desperately to escape her own body. A third part catalogues details with strange clarity. The priest is still chanting. The torches smell like pine resin. Marcus has turned away completely. The physician is adjusting his wax tablet to capture better light. They're all watching. That's the point. This isn't a private moment. This is a legal proceeding, a religious ritual, a social contract being executed with witnesses who will later testify, if needed, that the ceremony was properly completed. Time becomes meaningless. The wooden god is inside her body while 9 people watch, and somehow this is called sacred. When Postuma finally steps back and declares the god has accepted her, Claudia's legs are shaking so violently she nearly collapses. But there's no time to recover. The attendants rush forward with their copper basins, washing Claudia with practiced efficiency. The water is warm and scented with roses, a gracious touch that makes everything worse, as if gentleness can erase what just happened. Now the physician must document the god's work, Postuma announces. Physician Quintus approaches with his medical instruments. This examination is longer than the first one, more thorough. He's comparing, measuring, documenting changes. He makes notes on his wax tablet in a neat, practiced hand. The preparation is satisfactory, he finally declares. The bride is now receptive. The marriage may proceed to consummation. Claudia feels herself being guided to the bed in the adjoining chamber. The door is left open. By law, she'll learn later. Witnesses must be able to verify that consummation occurred. Privacy is not a right wives possess. Marcus enters, looking as trapped as she feels. This should be their first intimate moment as husband and wife. Instead, it's a performance for an audience, with Postuma standing at the threshold like a stage director, occasionally offering corrections. She must remain still. You must complete the act fully. There must be clear evidence. Marcus moves mechanically, his face turned away from hers. Whatever humanity might have existed between them died in that first chamber with the wooden god when he finishes and immediately withdraws. Physician Quintus returns for his third and final examination. He's checking, verifying, documenting the completion of the marriage contract. The consummation is valid, he announces, making his final notation. The union is legally binding, and with that administrative pronouncement, Claudia's transformation is complete. She is now a Roman wife. The witnesses disperse into the night. The torches are extinguished. The attendants remove the copper basins and the stained linens that served as legal evidence. Marcus retreats to a different part of the house. He's fulfilled his duty. They need not see each other again tonight. Claudia lies alone in the marriage bed, staring at the painted ceiling where gods and goddesses cavort in eternal celebration. She understands now why her mother couldn't explain. How do you tell your daughter that marriage requires public violation, that her body will be witnessed, measured, and documented like a shipment of grain, that the beautiful ceremony is just decoration hiding a transaction in human flesh? The silence was never protection. It was the only inheritance Roman women could pass down, the knowledge that some horrors are too embedded in society to fight. What Claudia doesn't know, lying in the pre-dawn darkness, is that she's living near the end of this particular Roman tradition, within a few generations, as Christianity spreads through the empire. These rites will become indefensible. Early Christian writers will condemn them with such vehemence that the practices will gradually disappear, first from public discussion, then from actual performance. By the medieval period, wooden phallic gods will be buried, burned, or hidden in private collections. The legal requirements for witnessed consummation will be quietly abandoned. The medical examinations will be denounced as obscene. The entire system will collapse, not because Rome fell, but because new ideas about bodily dignity and marital privacy made these practices impossible to justify. What will remain are fragments, angry sermons that refuse to describe what they're condemning, legal texts with euphemistic phrases about preparatory rites, buried statues that archaeologists find and struggle to explain. From these scraps, historians try to reconstruct what actually happened to women like Claudia. But without their voices, without their written testimony, the full horror remains partially hidden. Claudia lived another 51 years. She bore 5 children. Her tombstone, which still exists in a museum, praises her as a model of virtue and devotion. It says nothing about her wedding night. It says nothing about the wooden god, the witnesses, the examinations, the public consummation. That silence, that deliberate, enforced silence, is how systems of oppression protect themselves. Because what isn't recorded can't be challenged. What isn't named can't be fought. And what history forgets never really happened, except it did. To Claudia, to tens of thousands of Roman brides, to women whose names we'll never know and whose suffering was never considered worth documenting. So why does this matter now, 2,000 years later? Because we're still telling comfortable lies about the past. We're still teaching about Roman civilization as if it was all philosophy and aqueducts, conveniently forgetting the systematic violations that kept that civilization running. We're still celebrating ancient Rome while ignoring what Rome did to half its population. And we're still repeating the pattern, demanding that women's bodies be documented, verified, and controlled by authorities who claim it's for their own protection. The specifics change. The fundamental logic remains. That's why Claudia's story matters. Not because ancient Rome was uniquely horrible, but because understanding how ordinary people participated in normalized violations helps us recognize similar patterns in our own time. Postuma wasn't a monster. She was a professional doing her job according to the law. Physician Quintus wasn't sadistic. He was following the medical standards of his era. Marcus wasn't particularly cruel. He was fulfilling the social expectations placed on Roman husbands. Evil doesn't always announce itself with obvious cruelty. Sometimes it dresses itself in tradition, in law, in religious ritual, and claims that this is simply how civilization functions. If you made it this far, you understand why this video exists. History isn't just triumphs and monuments. It's also the lived experiences of ordinary people trapped in systems that use their bodies as raw materials for our social order. Claudia's story was buried because it was inconvenient, because it complicated the narrative we want to believe about ancient Rome. But inconvenient history is the most important kind. Drop a comment with your thoughts. And if this changed how you understand Roman civilization, share this video, because some truths survive only through people willing to speak them. This has been Curious Historians. Thanks for watching.